Welcome everybody. I'm Commander Jorval, and I want to thank you for joining us for episode number 1 of our Barbarian gameplay live stream series for Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access. For those of you who are unaware or unfamiliar with the game, Baldur's Gate 3 is the third game in a long-running series of Baldur's Gate games, all focused around the Dungeons and Dragons tabletop game. Baldur's Gate 3, like the other two, is developed in conjunction with Wizards of the Coast, who own the intellectual property behind Dungeons and Dragons. So this is one of those games where you're going to get a very, very close approximation of the tabletop D&D rule sets inside of a video game. And in this case, it's based around the 5e rule set. Now, I haven't played a whole lot of tabletop 5e rule set. I'm old, so I grew up around the 3rd edition of tabletop D&D, and a lot of things have changed, and this game makes it very easy to understand a lot of those rules that are in the current set of tabletop D&D. So after our Ranger gameplay series last time, we took some feedback on what you wanted to see next, and Barbarian was the winner in that choice. It was pretty close with Druid, but Barbarian won out, and honestly, I'm anxious to play Barbarian as well. I had mentioned at the end of the Ranger live stream series that I was anxious to play this, and if I didn't get much feedback, I was going to choose it anyway, but in this case, it came back that way anyway. So I'm really happy to see that. So we're going to start out today, and that should be all for the administrative notes. For the recap, kind of, since it's episode 1, I'm just going to give you a little prologue of what we're going to be doing. This is going to start out in the character creation stream. We're going to walk through all of the various options for character creation for the Barbarian, and that's going to take us a while because we're going to do some explanations on various things and then explain how I'm choosing to set up my Barbarian for this playthrough. And then we're going to jump into the prologue. And just like all of my live streams, if you've played the game before or you watched the Ranger gameplay live stream, it's going to be very similar in that we let the cutscenes play out. And so for those people who haven't ever played the game and are new and watching it, they can see all of the interactions, all of the cutscenes, all of that sort of stuff play out without me skipping it. So if you've been here before, then you get to see it all again. For those of you who are new to the stream, then you'll get to see the full cutscenes and everything like that, because the game really is aesthetically gorgeous. There's a lot of stuff inside the game, not just inside the gameplay itself, but in the cutscenes that's really just a joy to look at and watch. So we'll go through that as well. And I think without further ado, we're going to jump in here and start with a new game. I've set up a new profile. I've kept my Ranger gameplay available to me if I ever want to go back to it. But in this case, I started a new profile and we're going to jump into a new game. Hey, so disturbing cutscene. What you witnessed there was the main antagonist of the game at the start, which is the Mind Flayer. And they were introducing Mind Flayer tadpoles. Tadpoles are how Mind Flayers reproduce. And basically, that tadpole infects you and turns you into a Mind Flayer after a certain amount of time. And you're going to learn more about that process called seramorphosis as we go through the playthrough itself. So, but for now, we're going to select a character name here, and I'm going to use my standard character name. We're going to do a custom character, and we're going to be a male this time. Not that you can't be a female barbarian. It was a female ranger last time. But this time, just want to select a male character. And now we can set our background. Our background in the 5e rule set is giving us a choice of 2 proficiencies that it's going to give us. And proficiency is, if you hold T to inspect this, a proficiency is basically what it says. It's a bonus that gets added to attack rolls and ability checks anytime that you have to use that skill or that weapon or that particular tool. So there are a lot of background skill checks and proficiency checks in the game. You're just walking around and you walk by something and it's going to check and see if you notice it. Or then there's also active checks like sleight of hand checks for picking locks and that sort of stuff. So what you pick here for your background is going to vary the 2 proficiencies that you get for your character. So I'm obviously choosing a barbarian for this playthrough, so I'm going to get something that's going to benefit the barbarian's playstyle. Okay, so I don't really need religion, insights, or sleight of hand, or deception, and that sort of stuff. So as we go through these, you'll see that some of them, like this, is suited for a bard, and deception and stealth maybe for a rogue, maybe for a ranger. The sleight of hand and deception maybe for a rogue. So they all apply, they equally work, or they work best towards certain class, and each one is equally better or worse at other classes. So for us, I'm going to go through this until I get to Outlander. Now, Outlander, as you go through all of these, there are 2 here that really work with a fighter or barbarian type build. The Outlander gives you athletics proficiency, and again, if you hold this to inspect, athletics is performing any stunts. It helps you shove and resist being shoved. That can actually be very important in early access because of the verticality in this game. You can be shoved off of high places and take a lot of damage hitting the ground, or even just die if you're shoved off of a cliff where there's a void below you. It's the opposite is also true. You can shove other enemies off of those same high places and cause a lot of damage. So athletics is a very useful proficiency to have when you're dealing with a fighter type. And Outlander gives you athletics. Soldier also gives you athletics. So now the difference between the 2 is whether you get intimidation or survival. Now, survival is staying alive in the wilds and tracking prey. But it's also dealing with things like fire damage and surface damages and things like that. So it's a very useful thing to have. Intimidation is useful in interactions with NPCs throughout the game. If you choose the intimidation option, you're going to have a +2 bonus to whatever your charisma skill is. And with a barbarian, charisma, and you'll see later, charisma is normally going to be one of those dump stats where you're going to be pulling numbers away from it to put those skill points somewhere else. So Both of them are are very useful. I'm going to go with Outlander here to give me the survival proficiency with traps and things like that that I may wander into that I don't see. So moving on to race. Now with a Barbarian, the great thing about this game and a lot of other games like this is that you can play your character however you want. I'm not telling you how to set up your character, or this is the only way to set it up. I'm just going to explain to you how I'm setting it. And for me, there's really only one race that I'm going to select to be a Barbarian. My Barbarian's primary skill is obviously strength, but Constitution is what I call his second primary. It's not listed in tabletop as a primary trait, but it is. You need to be able to take a lot of damage, and as part of that, you may be spending a lot, depending upon how you choose to play your Barbarian, you may be spending a lot of time looking just how I look here, with just clothing, wearing no armor at all as your Barbarian. And that means that you're going to be taking damage, and that taking damage helps you with some other skills that we're going to be dealing with here in a little bit. But having a high hit point pool allows you to absorb that damage when you're doing it. So I need to focus on strength and constitution. The third thing that I need to do is focus on dexterity. As a Barbarian, when you get into combat, well, as any character, when you get into combat in tabletop D&D, you roll initiative. Initiative at the start of the fight, all of the characters, both your party and the enemy that are involved, all roll a d20, and whoever rolls the highest goes first. And then it's so on and so forth on down the line. Now that roll is modified by your dexterity. So your dex here, right now I have a 15, so it's getting a +2 to ability checks. That says at the bottom there, it also affects your initiative. So your dexterity is going to add a +2 to your initiative roll. What good is having a Barbarian sitting there all day long if you get attacked by 8 enemies before you get your first attack off, type of thing. So you want to have some reasonable number in dexterity here to help roll better on initiative. So wisdom helps avoid a lot of spells in the game, and also spell effects like sleep and that sort of stuff. Intelligence and charisma, like I say, they tend to be the dump stats. You're going to be taking points out of those and going somewhere else. But the two primary stats are strength and constitution, and to do that, if I look at a shield dwarf, I get a constitution +2 by being a dwarf. Then I get a strength +2 because of being a shield dwarf as my subrace. So if you go through the different races down here, all the sub-races, these all stay the same, but your sub-race modifies things down here. Okay? So here, shield dwarf is my strength, but I also get medium and light armor proficiency. Okay? So my base racial speed is just going to be slow because I'm a dwarf and you got short legs. But here I've got strength +2, I've got light and medium armor proficiency. Gold dwarf, I don't have either of those, but I get a wisdom modifier I get a wisdom +1 instead. I don't really need that. I'm going to stick with shield dwarf to do it. This gives me the best of all of my worlds here for being a barbarian. So for my appearance, I don't really care. I normally leave this as the default. My class is barbarian here. It tells you all of the things that you get for your class features. So I get proficiency in strength and constitution saving throws. So with my high strength and constitution, I also get a proficiency bonus for it. I have medium and light armor proficiency as well as shield proficiency. And because of barbarian, I get simple and martial weapon proficiency. So I can use any weapon in the game currently. I get rage as an action, and we'll spend a second talking about rage. This is the quintessential barbarian trait here, as well as the other skill that you pick up at level 2, which is Reckless Attack. So looking at Rage, it's a bonus action, and you have a Rage charge. Here in the game, they have to be able to balance out Rage somehow. So you get a Rage charge. You get a pool of these available to you every long rest that you can use. So I think when you start out, it gets you 2 Rage charges, and then that goes up every 3rd level, I think. In the game, that number increases. So I'm going to start out with 2 Rage charges. So I'm going to be able to Rage twice, and then I have to long rest to recover them. So while raging, I deal 2 extra damage straight off the bat. So I'm going to be getting an additional +2 to all of my damages in the game for any weapon that I use, including improvised weapons and throwing objects. So if I throw a barrel at somebody, I'm going to be getting 2 extra damage on that as well. So also while I'm raging, I have resistance to physical damage. So what that means is that with resistance, I'm going to take half damage against all physical damage that I take. And then I have advantage on strength checks and saving throws. So anything that's going to require me to resist a strength saving throw, I have advantage. And advantage allows you to roll 2 dice and you use the higher value. So if it's a d20, you roll 2 d20s, whichever one is higher, you use that number. Having advantage is a huge benefit for playing Dungeons and Dragons, both in tabletop and in Baldur's Gate 3. Having disadvantage is a huge detriment the same way. You roll 2 dice and you take the lower of the 2. So having disadvantage on yourself or being at advantage over something else, this is a huge benefit to Rage. Now, the last thing about Rage is that in tabletop, Rage lasts for 1 minute. And here in the game, Rage lasts for 10 turns, but to balance that out a little bit, it ends early if you either haven't attacked an enemy or taken damage from an enemy since your last turn. Well, not necessarily from an enemy. You could take damage from a fire surface or something like that, and it would still keep Rage active. So what this means is that when you Rage, you need to go into your Rage being able to attack every turn. If you aren't in a position to be able to attack every turn, then you need to be able to take damage from something on your turn to keep that Rage active. Otherwise, it's going to end, and it won't last for the 10 turns or the length of the combat, whichever comes first. So that's why being unarmored, and we'll talk about that here in a second, can be a benefit to your Barbarian because you have a lower armor class, so it means you're more easy to hit, which means that enemies that might not be able to hit you if you're wearing full armor can hit you, and that maybe allows your Rage to continue going when you're not in a physical position to be able to do it. So if you take a ranged attack from somebody, you may not be able to reach them either with your ranged attack or with your melee attack, or your ranged attack is just got a very low percentage to hit. They can hit you with their ranged attack and cause damage. That keeps your Rage going and gives you more time to get in melee range of them. So this is kind of how Rage works. This is the Barbarian trait. So it's their distinctive class thing. They're made to be damage dealers and damage tanks. So the last is unarmored defense. So it says while you're not wearing any armor, you add your Constitution modifier to your armor class. So my Constitution modifier right now is +3. So I'm going to be getting a +3 to my armor class whenever I'm not wearing any armor. So if I'm not wearing the medium or light armors that I have picked up and the proficiencies for up here, if I'm not wearing them, I'm going to have a +3 to my armor class. Now what it also means is that if I'm wearing heavy armor, which I do not have a proficiency for now, but you can pick it up as a feat when you reach level 4. If you are wearing heavy armor, then it's going to impede your rage. And I believe what that means is that in the early access, I believe it means that your rage lasts 5 turns instead of 10 turns. I haven't actually done this before because there's only one heavy weapon or heavy armor in the game right now that I believe, and that's not until you get to the adamantine forge and you craft the splint mail. So I haven't ever utilized it to check and see. I can possibly, once we get down there, if I remember to do it, try and check it and see what that does. So now let's go to skills. Now, skills, you can see I've got some inherited skills, athletics and survival, that were granted by Outlander subrace. Athletics and survival were inherited from my background, and that's right here, that subrace thing. But I'm able to pick 2 more skills to be proficient with: animal handling, intimidation, nature, and perception. So each one, it will tell you what it is. This is your ability to calm down and influence animals when you're dealing with them. There are a lot of animals in the game, and animal handling is a very useful skill to have. If you were with us on our Ranger gameplay, you saw how useful that was throughout the playthrough. Intimidation is, again, one of those things that we had the option to pick due to our subrace, but now we have an option to pick it up here, and it allows us to, on our interactions with other characters in the game, to allow us a +2 to our intimidation options. And with charisma being what it is, that +2 can help us offset a possible negative modifier with our ability scores. Nature recognizes plants and animals. It's also a skill recognizer about anything that you come encounter with while you're wandering around in the overworld and dealing with, obviously, the animals that are there. It allows you to pick up additional information that may lead to extra dialogue options when you're dealing with those type of things. Perception is another one of those skills that helps you while you're just walking around doing, and that you get a passive check somewhere. It allows you to get a +1 bonus to spot hidden details somewhere. If you were with us on our Ranger playthrough, or you played this game before, you know that there are a lot of hidden items throughout the game that you can find and pick up. And perception is a big deal to allow you to find those things. Because if you fail your perception checks, everyone in the party does, it's just not there, and you can't find it, you can't pick it up, you can't use it. So having perception with somebody is a big deal. I'm actually going to be utilizing a different way to up my perception, so I'm not going to worry about it here on my Barbarian. So I'm actually going to pick animal handling and intimidation. The intimidation is going to help me cancel out some stuff based on my charisma here in a minute. And animal handling is, I'm going to have a base wisdom skill, and giving me a +3 to animal handling is just going to help out in a bunch of those situations that we're going to encounter throughout the game here. So these are all the skills that I don't have any proficiency with, and hopefully we'll be making up a lot of those with other characters in the game as we go through. So now we get to our abilities. And this is obviously one of the most important things in the game when you're laying out your character here. I'm not going to go through what all the abilities are. You can do this on your own. Anybody who's familiar, even the slightest, with D&D knows what a lot of these are for. When you're laying out your skills, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. One is that right now in early access, the level cap is level 4. At level 4, you have the ability to choose a feat. Every 4 levels throughout the game, 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20, through tabletop anyway. We don't know how many levels we're going to see in the full version of the game. I expect we're probably going to be capped somewhere around 12, if I had to guess. on launch, and then maybe we'll get some expansions or DLCs that improve that to level 16 or maybe 20. But every 4 levels, you have the opportunity to take a feat. And there are a bunch of feats in the game, and we'll go through those here once we get to level 4. But also, at every 4th level, instead of taking a feat, you can choose to increase your ability scores. And it gives you 2 ability score points, which means you can increase a single score by 2 or increase 2 scores by 1 each. So to kind of prep for that, you can think about where you might want to apply those additional skill points in the future. Now there's another that's in place of taking a feat, and there are some really good feats in the game. Not many, in my opinion, but there are a few good ones, and one of them is something called Great Weapon Master. And that is that you get a -5 to your 2 hit rolls. So whenever you're attacking something, you're going to get a -5 to that roll. And then but in place of that, you're going to get a flat +10 damage. That's not 1d10. You're not rolling a 10-sided die, and you could possibly get an additional 1 to 10 damage. This is a flat 10 extra damage, which in the early access is massive. It's huge. So being able to deal an extra 10 damage and finding ways to overcome the -5 to hit roll with things like having advantage on your attack, so you get to roll 2 hit die to try and make a hit, or having a cleric cast Bless on your party before you get into that combat situation, which gives you a +2 to hit, or being able to cast things on yourself like Bless or things like that before you go into a combat to help offset that -5 to hit. You're going to be missing a lot more. The trade-off is that when you hit really, really hard. But to take that feat, you cannot take the feat to increase your ability scores. So when you're thinking about your ability scores now, it's helpful to think about what you want to do. So if I, for instance, take Charisma down by 2 and I add 1 to Constitution, now I'm at 17 Strength and Constitution. You can see I've got a +3 modifier to that. I don't know if I can. Yeah, you can't take them up to 18 at character creation. I don't think. Yeah, I'm not allowed to take them up to 18 at character creation. So I was just checking to see if that was the case or not. But just setting these numbers for now, if you have a 17 here, you can, at level 4 and you want to take the ability point increase, you can up this to 18 and 18, which is going to take you from a +3 modifier to a +4 modifier. So now all of my strength-based weapon attacks, I get a +4 to hit. All of my strength-based damage rolls, I get a +4 to that damage. Same thing with Constitution. Now all of my hit points, instead of being at +3 per level, are now at +4 per level. So you get a huge hit point boost out of it as well. So if you're planning on taking the ability score increase feat at level 1, which is what in tabletop you would almost always do, then having these two at 17 will allow you to get to 18 on both of them at level 4. Now in early access you can reach level 4 fairly quickly in the game, so you get the benefit of that +4 in both of those for a long portion of the game. Okay, and then in tabletop you would normally take one of the other types of feats maybe at 8 or maybe at 12 as you go, instead of upping your ability scores at those points. So at 4 you may up this to 18 and 18, and then at 8 up your strength to 20, or something like that, and then at 12 start taking the other feats that don't have increases to ability scores. But since we're so limited just to level 4, you have to kind of think about what you want to do with that feat at level 4. Because if I'm going to pick the Great Weapon Master feat, there's no point in me being at 17, because I still get a +3 at 16 as an ability score. Okay? And now if I take those both down to 16, I now have 4 additional ability points to play with. So now I can take my intelligence and charisma and get them to a point where I have 0 modifiers, and I can put my dexterity up to 14 to give me a +2 for my initiative roll at the start of combat. Okay? So if I'm planning to take Great Weapon Master, this would be more of the setup that I'm going for. If I'm not planning to take Great Weapon Master, then I would do a setup more like this, where intelligence and charisma are both dump stats, where I'm taking minus modifiers on those to be able to get my strength and constitution to 17, so I can up them to 18 when I get to level 4. So I honestly haven't thought about this very much. I haven't used the Great Weapon Master feat before in one of my playthroughs. The safer way to go here, obviously, is just to leave them like this and take your ability score increase at level 4. That's the safest way to go. I think what I'm probably going to do here, though, instead, is go an all or nothing type approach to my Barbarian. And I think to do that, I am going to take the Great Weapon Master feat at level 4 and forego an ability score increase and leave them at +3 for each. So it's going to be interesting. We'll see how frustrated I get with all the swings and misses as we go through the playthrough after we reach level 4. But when I do hit, it's going to be devastating. It's absolutely devastating. And I think I like that aspect of it as well. So the last thing up here, and if you haven't selected and you click Venture Forth, it's going to select it for you. Takes you to who do you dream of, who attracts you. This doesn't really matter. It's just the character model that you're going to see, like it says, in your dreams. And there are going to be cutscenes where you're going to deal with that. For me, it doesn't really matter what that character is. So I'm going to leave it the default and say Venture Forth, and we'll go ahead and get things started. Okay, an amazing cutscene. Saw a lot there. For those people not familiar with D&D, we can kind of walk through it a little bit. And you're going to now get dropped into the prologue. This is basically the tutorial that helps you learn how to play Baldur's Gate 3. But to kind of go through some of the stuff at the start that we saw in the cutscene, the ship that we're on is called a Nautiloid. They were like the battleships for the Mind Flayer race in their war with the Githyanki. The Githyanki are the pointy-eared dragon riders that we saw earlier, and we saw the Githyanki that was trapped with us that got infected with a tadpole as well. The Githyanki are the sworn enemy of the Mind Flayers, and as part of their war with the Mind Flayers, they made a deal with Tiamat. Tiamat is the goddess of dragons, and they made a deal to gain the service of a number of red dragons that they could ride into combat. So that's what you saw, was 3 Githyanki dragon riders attacking the Nautiloid. Now the Nautiloid started out in the physical plane, and it was above a city, and it was capturing people and bringing them up to the ship, presumably to infect them and turn them into Mind Flayers as well. And then the Githyanki dragon riders appeared through a portal and attacked the Nautiloid. Now, the Mind Flayer then basically teleported the Nautiloid to a different location that was a cold and ice realm, and the fight happened there, and then the fight got worse. It took a turn for the worse for the Mind Flayer, so he panicked and he teleported the ship to a different place, just to kind of one of those go anywhere other than here type things. And where they landed, where it teleported to, was Avernus, which is also called the Hells in D&D. The red flying little demon things you saw are called Imps, and we are now in the realm of Avernus. We are in the Hells, and the Nautiloid has taken some damage. You saw that it released that Githyanki prisoner as well, and we are now free to explore around the interior of the Nautiloid and see how it works. Now, for those of you who didn't watch the playthrough or haven't watched this, like I said at the start during character creation, there's an amazing amount of verticality in this game. You can't just look around you on the same level. You need to look above you, and your mini-map is going to help show you where you can and cannot go throughout the playthrough. Okay? So here you can see that there's a way to get around behind me. I'm facing this way. There's a way to get around behind me, and that's right here. And this takes you up, and you see that we can't see a whole lot up there. But there's a pathway up there to explore, and you want to go exploring all throughout this game. You will find hidden chests, you will find hidden encounters, you will find hidden clues to puzzles in different locations throughout the game, and so you want to be watching your mini-map and go exploring as much as you possibly can. So here we can also see we have a gear icon, and this just means that you can interact with the Mind Flayer pod in some way.
I'd still be stuck inside if we hadn't been attacked.
Okay. So in this case, it was just to get a piece of dialogue. This is the Mind Flayer pod that we came out of. So now we noticed that there was this path up here, so this is the way that we're going to go.
Where the hells are we?
Gonna head up here, and now you get a surface. Surfaces are very important in both tabletop and Baldur's Gate 3. Surfaces can be beneficial in certain situations, they can be detrimental in most other situations. So things like mud and things like that on the ground can slow you down. Water on the ground can slow you down. If you're standing in water and somebody casts a lightning bolt spell at you, you can get electrocuted as the entire water becomes electrified. That sort of stuff. Fire is obviously one of those surfaces that if you stand on it causes fire damage. So you don't want to, you want to pay very special attention to where you're clicking in this game so that you don't step on a surface and take unintentional damage that you can't heal or you can't repair. Okay? So just basically be careful when you're walking around and you'll be fine. Now, the other thing to remember is that you have different abilities that can get you into other locations. One of them is jump. You hit the Z key, it's going to give you a white outline that shows how far you can jump. Now, your jump is based on your strength score. So the higher your strength score, the farther you can jump. Okay? So here, doesn't look like there's enough space to jump to anywhere back here or over here. It says target's too far when we get over here, but we'll go downstairs and take a look at that here in a second. Okay? So as you're walking through this game, you don't want to click like way up here and have your character just find its own way there. If there's a trap along the way, he's just going to walk through it. He's not going to stop. In Baldur's Gate, you really want to take short hops when you're moving around. If you're unfamiliar with the area, move in short bursts as opposed to clicking all the way down here somewhere and having your character just walk to it. Okay? So the first thing that we run into is a chest here, so we're just going to go loot it. Got a potion of fire resistance. That's fairly straightforward as to what it does, and a potion of healing. Again, straightforward as to what it does. So you can right click on these and you can send them to other party members. Once we get out of the prologue, you'll be able to send things out of a chest to other party members. You can also pick up and add to wares, and wares is basically an easy way to sell things later on. So if you know you're not going to use it and you're just going to sell it later on, then you can pick it up and add it to your wares. And when you go to a vendor, you can just sell all of your wares at the same time as opposed to having to click on all of them. Once you get out of the prologue, there's also going to be something called send to camp. You're going to have a camp chest, and that's your overall main storage chest. You can store as much as you want in it. Whenever you do a long rest, it takes you back to camp and you can access that chest. So you'll have different options here by clicking on them, and you can always examine it, and that's going to tell you basically what it is, how much it weighs, what its value is. It also tells you if it gives you any, or what it's resistant to. So it's resistant to piercing damage, so it takes only half damage from piercing damage if you tried to hit this with a rapier or something like that. But you can also bring up this examine screen for enemies and find out what their resistances are to help better plan your attacks. So for now, I'm just going to take all, and that exits you out of it and closes the chest. Okay, now another way to look for things around here is to hold the Alt key. You hold the Alt key, anything that's interactable, or a lot of things that are interactable around you are going to show up with a name, and you can either hover over it and click on it to search it or pick it up or interact with it, or you can find out where it is and move your mouse over it and it'll highlight it. Okay, so when you're moving, pay special attention to hold Alt occasionally. And see, I'm here, I'm holding Alt and a caustic bulb showed up, so now my cursor moved from a pointer to a hand, so if I click on it, I'm going to go pick it up.
Don't mind if I do.
Okay, that's how the Alt key works. Okay, so make sure that you hold Alt and make sure that you move your mouse around, because if you mouse over an item that's up here, it's going to highlight it and show it to you. Okay, so we got another chest up here. Okay, and we have an alchemist fire. This is basically a flask that you throw it and it does 1d4 fire damage, and it creates a fire surface on the ground. So it can cause fire damage on the next turn as well. And then there's a grease bottle. Grease basically creates a big flammable surface on the ground that can knock enemies prone. When you are prone, it takes half your movement speed to get up. and then while you're moving through the grease surface, your walking speed is halved again. And you'll see that when we get into combat and how that relates to it. But it's a way to block off certain areas and try and crowd control a choke point and things like that. Grease is also flammable. So if you throw down a grease bottle and then you throw Alchemist Fire on top of it, you're going to get a big explosion that causes more fire damage to anybody who's standing on top of it. So can be very useful to use throughout your game. Okay. So now you can see on our mini-map there's nowhere else to go down this way, so we're going to head back the way that we came. Head back down here to the ramp that we used to come up. And we can get down here to the bottom. Now, again, down here, all of this is in fire. And you see we can jump back here to get into this area. However, down here, not enough space for us to get to down there. Okay. You will be able to jump down throughout this game and jump up throughout this game. So don't be afraid to trigger your jump ability just to see where you can and cannot get to. It's gonna possibly open up other areas that you can reach that you might have missed. So keep that in the back of your head, that you have that available to you to be able to use. So we got an autosave, which normally lends you to believe that there's something possible that's going to happen around here. And we're going to interact with the nursery.
This is the pool that thing came from. The parasite now writhing behind your eye.
Okay, so you have some options here. Investigation, this is a skill check that allows you to roll 1d20. And in this case, my intelligence is just 10, so there's no pluses or minuses to that. To try and investigate the pool and see if I notice anything else about it. My intelligence is not the greatest, but I might as well take a chance to get a roll. So here you can see the DC, or difficulty class. This is the number that you have to beat. Okay, so I have total bonus of 0 because my modifier for intelligence is 0, and I'm by myself and I don't have any items or anything like that that can increase that bonus. So I just have to roll a 10 or above to be able to pass this. And I rolled exactly a 10.
The casing is fragile. The slightest touch could cause it to crumble.
Okay, so now what it's saying is that the casing is fragile, so if I reach toward it, it's probably going to break. We have no idea what's going to happen if I do that. So I'm, with the benefit of foresight of this, I'm going to leave. If you touch it, it's going to explode and cause you explosion and fire damage. So you don't want to have that happen to you. It's not a big deal right now because there are ways to get your hit points back very easily. But you get no other benefit for it exploding and causing you damage. So there's no point in really doing it. So here I'm holding Alt K. You can see there's a Mind Flare over here. Okay, and you got a skull. Doesn't really do anything for us. And a spiked bulb, which causes 1 damage. And you can throw it.
Good.
Okay. Now holding Alt, I don't see anything else back here. But there are other places to get to, so we're just going to go exploring. We see those in the Mind Flare pod.
Someone else got out.
Just let you know that somebody else is free as well. Now you can get up here on this side. Holding Alt, looking around. Looking at various locations, holding jump, not enough space to get to anywhere. And you're going to see this happen a lot in the playthrough. Okay. So now I can jump up here. And now I've got a fire surface here that I don't want to walk through, but I can jump across it. Another handy way to see if there's a walking path to get around it is to hide. Okay, this is the C key. if you hold the hide button,
Time to
your icon's going to change to have this broken line around you. And now whenever you drag your mouse out, you can see the path your character's going to take to get to wherever you're clicking to. And you can see that it's red. So that means that there's no way to get across here without walking through the fire surface. And it turns red to let you know that there's going to be some damage taken, or that your movement's going to be inhibited. Okay? So it lets you know here that we have to jump across this. We don't have any other choice. So I'm going to jump across here, and you can see we've got a dead thrall we can search. Took some gold. There's a scroll of mage armor, which is a scroll that you can cast a spell off of. Wizards can use scrolls to learn spells. And so they can, instead of learning the limited number of spells that they have choices available to them at the start of character creation and as they level up, they can use a scroll and learn the spell from it. That costs gold normally, and time to be able to do it in tabletop. In here, it just costs gold to be able to do it. So, or in tabletop, I don't think it costs gold, it just costs time. But here they have to make some way to even it out, so that it's a gold cost to be able to learn spells from a scroll. But you can also keep these in your inventory and cast them. Just straight from the scroll. Now we also have this thing called a slave mind. Now this is
brain in a jar.
an interesting object. Here, it weighs 10 pounds, so it weighs a lot. Luckily, I have a really high strength. So my carry weight, which is down here at the bottom, is really high. So at this point, I become encumbered, and my walking speed slows down, and I can't jump as far. Heavily encumbered down here, that modifier just gets worse. Okay? So, but the slave mind, right now in early access, there's no use for it that anybody can find. There are 3 of these. There's slave mind, hour mind, and I can't remember the third off the top of my head. We'll find it though. So just finding them though doesn't, now and not having a use for them doesn't mean that you shouldn't know where they are, because when the full access version of the game comes out, maybe those 3 are going to be able to be used for something. So don't overlook them. Just because there isn't a use for them, get in the habit of knowing where these things are so that you can come back and get them if need be at the start of your game. Once you leave the prologue, you can't come back to the prologue, so you want to pick up everything you possibly can while you're here. So interacting with the Mind Flayer pods just lets you know that there might be other survivors around. Nothing big. Holding Alt, there's nothing else down here. Okay, but you see there were quite a few people in here that made it out. And now you have this restoration. These restoration pods are located throughout the prologue, and it's basically because if you take damage, it wants to help you heal that damage. It lets you get your hit points back and also get your spell slots back if you're a spellcaster. So just a way to help you through the prologue as you go. Okay, so it's showing you a way to go here, but your map is also showing you where to go. Your mini map up here, you can hit M to bring up the full map. You can see that this is where we want to end up going. So anything that's highlighted on your map is normally going to have a journal entry. You can hit J to bring up the quest journal, and right now the one that's active is Escape the Nautiloids. We're going to find our way off the Nautiloids, so that's the marker on our map that we are trying to get to. Okay, so we're going to slowly move through into this next room. Holding Alt, you can see we've got some dead lesser imps up here.
Devil kid. Am I in the hells?
Scroll of Firebolt and another potion of healing. Always good. And now, holding Alt again, you can see there's a caustic bulb up here, and you can click on the name or the object itself. That's very useful when you got a bunch of things all laying on top of each other. You can just click on the name
More for me.
and it will go over there and pick it up. But there are also other things here that don't show up when I hold Alt. These mucoid shells that weigh 3 pounds apiece, they're worth 25 gold. So if you think you're going to be short on gold, then you can, or you have a lot of additional carry space available to you, then you can pick these things up and maybe you can find a point later to sell them. Okay. So we also have a sodalite shell. It's not worth very much or anything like that, so I'm going to leave it. You can come back up here. You see we have a hollow shell, again, not worth much, and an Elithid record.
Images of goblins, their habits and histories flash into your mind.
Okay, so just some lore there, and then you can sit in the chair if you want. And sometimes sitting in chairs or interacting with objects like that can influence the environment around you. So you'll see more of that as we go through the playthrough, but just not right now. You'll see what I mean by that later on. So we're going to walk around over here to this side. Coming through here, we have this cerebral aquarium, which we can interact with.
Brains.
And this is all just learning more about the lore in D&D and that sort of stuff. Dark Mind is the other one that I didn't know. So Slave Mind, Our Mind, and Dark Mind are the 3 mind jars, so to speak, that you can pick up in the game. Again, I haven't found a use for them, and they're really heavy. So if you don't have the carry capacity for them, you're not going to be able to pick them all up in the prologue without sacrificing some other things. But just remember where they are, because maybe in the full version of the game there's going to be a useful.
Faint images appear in your mind. A brain, a Githyanki warrior, and centuries of darkness. 1,000 years of humanoid history, elves, dwarves, humans, and more flash behind your eyes.
Okay, so just learning some more lore there. Looking around and keeping an eye on my mini-map as I go. Holding Alt periodically. Doesn't look like there's anything that I can really look at in here. We could go farther back, but looking at most of this, looks like it's all on fire. We don't want to jump into the fire, obviously. And doesn't look like there's anything back there. And I'm just doing this, I know what's there and what's not. I'm just doing it to illustrate to you how you should be going about looking at this game and exploring. And again, looking at your mini-map, you can see there's this area up here. Well, how do we get there? Well, there's a ramp right here. Help us get there. There's also some other options down here, which we'll deal with on the way out. Okay, and you can see that we're technically outside the mini-map. This is what happens when you deal with hidden areas and that sort of stuff. The game's not going to alert you that there's a hidden area or a hidden way to get up somewhere, but if you find it, you can use it. So take in the chest, just a ring and some gold. And maybe you've heard something talking in the background here. Okay, caustic bulb. It's something you throw that causes acid damage. Spike bulb and a void bulb. Void bulbs are really cool. It causes 1d force damage, but it actually is like a portable black hole, kind of. You throw it somewhere, and wherever it throws, it sucks everything toward it. So it's actually kind of interesting to utilize. And you've heard that thing playing in the background, the voice. Okay, you can hear them. So again, we're just going to go over and make sure that there's nothing to explore. This is the door we came in, down below. And now we can start our interaction here.
Help us.
Okay.
You've come to save us from this place. From this place you'll free us.
The exposed brain quivers in expectation.
Please. Before they return. They return.
Okay, so what you saw there was a passive check. It was a perception check, and it made a roll against our perception skill in the background to see if we could learn something else about this object. Okay, and you're going to find that a lot throughout the game. So that's where those skill proficiencies come into play.
A newborn. Born new from this husk.
You realize you're talking to an intellect devourer, a minion of the mind flayers who abducted you.
Okay, so you learned that this is a mind flayer, or I mean, not an intellect devourer, one of the mind flayer's minions. So it kind of lets you, it now gives you the option to just straight out destroy the brain if you want to. We're going to go another way and see if we can do something else here in this particular scenario.
Remove us from this body. From this case. Free us. Please.
Okay, so now you have some options here, and it tells you what your options are and what your bonuses may or may not be. So investigation is intelligence. I have a 0 modifier to intelligence. Strength, I have a +3 from strength, so that's a big benefit to try and use the strength option. Dexterity, I have a +2 from. So using the one with the higher number is going to help make it easier for you to pass that ability check. So I'm going to go with strength here. But first, I can investigate it and see if there are any other options here. Okay, so again, a DC of 10. Probably didn't want to waste that roll.
You notice edema, a swelling of the brain causing pressure where it strains against the shell of the skull.
Okay, so now you have a medicine check that's available, or a medicine option that's available to you. This is advantage. It's a wisdom modifier, which means I have a +0 to wisdom, but it's going to roll 2 d20 and use the higher of the 2 because I now have advantage. So I can either take a single roll and get +3 on that roll, or I can roll 2 d20s with +0 to both of them and see if one of them passes or not. So I think I'm going to take the medicine option here and just see what happens with 2 rolls as opposed to 1, because advantage is such a huge benefit in this game. Okay, so again, 10, and I'm going to roll 2 d20. And I passed it. With a 6, even with a +3 on my strength, I would have failed it. Okay, so that's the big benefit that advantage has.
The brain lifts from the skull, but you notice an opportunity. You could cripple the strange creature, making it more subservient, should it prove a threat.
Okay, so now I have the last option here, which is to mutilate the brain. And it says you could cripple the strange creature, making it more subservient, should it prove to be a threat. Now, dexterity I've got a +2 on, so you could just spare the creature. Any injuries might weaken it. I'm going to use the dexterity option here. This now is a DC of 15. I have a +2, so I need to roll at least a 13 to get this to work. And I rolled a 2. Okay, so that's not going to work. So now you're basically left with freeing it without having made it more subservient. Okay? So if you would have chosen the option to just free it without damaging it, you would end up here anyway. The option to mutilate the brain would have allowed us to have this as a party member, which is going to be a big benefit later on. If you didn't watch the Ranger gameplay live stream series, you know that I don't save and reroll and reload games because of things that don't go my way. What you would really do in the full game is you would save before that encounter, and then if you failed that throw or that skill check, you would load and do it again until you pass it. That would be hugely beneficial in this case, knowing what's coming, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to take what comes with it and go from there, even though it may mean that I'm going to miss out on one of the best possible weapons in early access. We'll kind of see what happens here. So this leads you through the combat tutorial. I'm not going to go through everything on this, but combat basically it happens in turns. We've rolled initiative because of my dexterity. I've rolled, or just because of my roll with my dexterity modifier, I've rolled higher than the intellect devourer, so I'm going to go first. This is what's the turn order is called initiative, and it was influenced by dexterity. So now I have an action, which is the green dot. I have bonus actions, which are the orange triangle, and I also have rage pool, which is something else. And then I have my movement bar, which is this blue bar around here. There's a center point here that basically lets you know if you move past that, you're not going to be able to get back to where you were. It just lets you know this is the point of no return on getting back to where you were. Okay? So now I have an intellect devourer to attack, and you see now I've got a 95% chance to hit. That's what the 95 percentile is, and then up there at the top. And it says that with the weapon I've got, I'm going to do 4 to 15 points of damage. The intellect devourer has 11, so I want to try and make sure that I get a kill in here as quick as I can so I can look at other things. So prepare. If I spend 6 meters of my movement speed, you can see down in the corner down here how the blue bar disappears a little bit. Well, most of it. That indicates what my movement would be after I use it. But if I do it, then I gain an additional 3 slashing damage with my melee weapon for the rest of the turn. So it's basically spending movement speed to get 3 additional melee damage. I could certainly rage and do that, but I don't think there's really any need to here. I'm just going to prepare. And now I'm going to make my attack. Okay, and I got 12. I rolled a 9, so I wouldn't have killed it, but because of the additional 3 that was added on, I killed it. Okay, and then you would click here to end your turn, but since you ended the combat entirely, it brings you out of turn-based mode. Okay, you can search the intellect devourer. There's never anything on them. Now I can go up here and I can interact with this neural apparatus. Basically an elevator control is what it is. I really regret not being able to make that that difficulty check there, because having that as an ally is huge, because it has 21 hit points. First of all, that's more than anybody's going to have in your party, but also it does a really good amount of damage, and you're going to need all of that damage when you get down to the point we're looking at. But you can see we're still flying. We're still in the hells, because you can see imps flying by occasionally. But yeah, it's a really cool looking thing to be able to look out and see. Skeletons on the ground and all sorts of other stuff. Okay, so we're going to get up to this point. We can climb down here a little bit, and we can jump across this gap. And we're going to continue walking on down this way. But something just appeared, and if you were eagle-eyed enough, you saw it. And that's Lae'zel is waiting for us down here. So holding Alt, there's nothing down here. Gonna autosave, was again gonna let us know that there's normally something that's about to happen.
Abomination. This is your end.
You head this, and your skin tingles. Visions rush past. A dragon's wing, a silver sword, and a flash of your face seen through the strange woman's eyes.
Oh, my head. What is this? Skvar, you are no thrall. Vlaakith blesses me this day. Together, we might survive. Imps block the path forward. You will assist me in destroying them. We must reach the helm before we transform. We carry mind flayer parasites. Unless we escape, unless we are cleansed, our bodies and minds will be tainted and twisted. Within days, we will be Geich, mind flayers. We can do nothing until we escape. That must be our priority. Who am I? Your only chance of survival. It is where we might gain control of the Ga'arth, the ship. Once in command, we will deal with our Geich captors. First, we exterminate the Imps. Then we find the helm and take control of the ship. We will address the matter of a cure for this infection once we reach the material plane.
Okay, so now Lae'zel joins your party. Now if you hit tab, it brings up the party view and you see that it's just us. In the prologue, this really isn't a party in the full sense of the term. And you cannot exchange weapons back and forth or inventory back and forth between your characters. So whatever they have on them is whatever they have on them. You can control them though, just like the normal party that you will have once we get out of the prologue. Okay? So for now, you can see that we have our mini-map showing 3 imps here. 2 lesser imps and 1 wounded imp that just moved. So we've got a lesser imp up here on the high ground. We have a lesser imp down here on the low ground who's patrolling back and forth. And then we have another imp around back here who's going to come back this way here in a second. Okay, so it's patrolling. Now you can get a good look at what they're carrying. This one's got a hand axe, so that's melee only, meaning they have to be up next to you to be able to hit you. This one's not carrying anything, which means they're going to use their claws for melee only again. This one down here, however, turn around. You see they've got a crossbow. Okay, so you want to, in the game, you want to try and focus on the ranged enemies as much as you can, but you take what you can get. So it may govern portions of the combat, but if you can't reach a ranged enemy, you can't reach it and you have to find some other way to attack it. So prepping for combat is incredibly important in this game. You want to pre-position your characters to get the most out of them. Okay? And you also want to realize that characters don't enter into turn-based combat until they are noticed by the enemy. So to do this, we're going to first hide everybody just by clicking this button here. Everybody gets the purple icon for being hidden. Okay, and they all crouch down. Now I'm going to break the group apart. Okay? And now whichever one of these I click on, that's the character I'm controlling. The other thing that being hidden does is it allows you to see detection cones. Everything that's red means that they can see that area, and I'm going to have to make a stealth check if I move into it to remain hidden. If I fail that stealth check, they're going to see me, and combat's going to begin. Okay? So, looking at it right now, there's not a lot of opportunity to get into melee distance on anybody here because the detection cones are covering everything up. Both of these are looking that way. He's moved down here, but now when he moves around, this imp is still quite a ways inside of that detection area. Okay? He turns around for just a split second and then turns back. So for me to melee attack it, which would give me a 100% chance to hit, I'd still have to move into that detection area, and it would bring me it would start combat at that point. So what I'm going to do is take Lae'zel, and I'm going to move her over here. And I'm going to move her down here. So she's now in line with this imp in here. Lae'zel has a short bow. Okay, so I'm going to see if I'm able to make an attack against this imp without moving. So it says I got a 98% chance to hit. I can kill it right there. Or I can attack it right there. It's got 6 hit points. Got a 2 to 7 damage, so I'd have to roll really high on the damage, but I've got an advantage on hiding, which means I'm going to roll 2 d20s on my attack. So that's why I have such a high percent chance to hit. So I'm going to try and start this combat with a ranged attack and see what happens. If I kill it, it's going to die inside the detection cone of one of the other enemies, so they're going to see it die, and combat's probably going to be initiated. But if I don't kill it, there might be an opportunity to do a follow-up attack before it notices me. Okay, so be prepared to do a ranged attack, a second ranged attack, if the first one doesn't kill it and it doesn't notice you and combat hasn't started. So we're going to do one here, and I hit 7 and killed it. Okay. So what happened there is it died. It was within the detection cone of the other enemies. So it put me into combat. They noticed that it was dead. We rolled initiative. I rolled second. But the enemy was surprised. And when they're surprised, that means the first turn after combat starts, they can't do anything but be surprised. So that's why the first one didn't get to attack, because he was just recovering from being surprised. Now I can make another attack here against one of these two before they get to attack me. Okay? So looking at the map here, you can then hover over each one, and you see that the character bar, it turns a brighter red. So if you hover over it, you can see that this is the one that's going to attack next. It's still surprised for one turn. This one here, I can't attack. It's not within line of sight. But here you can see it outlines it in red. And you can see that it's surprised. So what I can do now is this icon here indicates that Lae'zel was now in combat. But my Barbarian is not in combat. So see, I can move them. I can move my Barbarian around wherever I want, not being in combat. And as long as I don't step into that red detection area or cross that red detection area, then I'm not going to get detected. Okay? So now, if I try and jump across here, jump across to here, okay? You see, if I jump here, I'm going to be crossing that red area. So it's going to make a stealth check to see if I remain in stealth and not, and I'm probably not going to be able to make it. Okay? So there's not enough space anywhere back in here. There is a place right here and that's not on fire. But I don't know if that's going to get me anywhere or not. I can try it. Okay, now if I jump again, is there anywhere else I can move? Okay, so I can move over here. This is not on fire either. Fire here, but not right here. Oh, it's blocked. Yeah, it's blocked by this object here. So yeah, you can see it's blocked. So, but I can now jump. Nope, I can't jump out here because this is blocked as well. You can see the arrows. Yeah, it's going to be blocked here. I can try it, but yeah, see, it's blocked. So this is all blocked here. I'm still hiding. So yeah, there's nowhere for me to move back here. So yeah, jumping there doesn't get me anywhere that I can go. Okay. Can't jump out here. So all I can do is jump back. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is to, while combat is in progress here, I'm trying to maneuver my other characters into more advantageous positions, so to speak. But it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to get to many advantageous positions here without crossing this cone here. So while we've got Lae'zel here, you can see she has a movement bar. You can move 9 meters and that's it. Because she's in combat, you have a limit on how far you can move. So I'm going to move her out here as far up as she can go. I'm actually going to jump first. Jumping uses 3 meters of movement speed and your bonus action, but depending on your strength, that can be a lot farther than 3 meters, which it is in this case. I'm going to jump up to here, and now you can see I can move, get quite a bit farther moved up. And the next one to attack is going to be this one. So I'm going to see if I can get... No, I can't get a ranged attack off on them. I can with a 56% chance to hit on this one. And it was a miss. Okay. So I'm going to move my Barbarian up here. And I'm going to try and just jump across here and see if I get seen. I probably will, but... Yep. Okay, so I did get seen, but I am now in combat. So Lae'zel's turn is over. There's nothing else she can do. She has cantrips, but there's no cantrip spells that she has right now, so she's going to end her turn. They were both surprised. He moved into position and attacked my Barbarian. Okay, and now it's my Barbarian's turn. Now, again, my Barbarian has some really good strength, so I'm going to jump to get up here, and I can move close enough to get a melee attack off on this imp. Okay, and killed it without a problem. Okay, so now Lae'zel can move up, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to jump. She does not have enough movement to get up there and make an attack, but I have a 75% chance to hit here. I got 2 damage. Okay, missed. So I'm going to move up. Going to jump across. And Bob's your uncle. Okay.
What's next?
Now combat's ended. Your party is not grouped up anymore. So you have to group them back up, and they have to be somewhat close to each other to be able to group back up. But for now, I can also do some searching here. take a light crossbow, so now I have some ranged ability as well, whereas I didn't have any ranged ability previously. Ranged attacks in early access anyway are just, they're very overpowered in a lot of instances. So being able to have a ranged attack is very, very important in this game. And sorry I hit my microphone there, I apologize for that. Okay. I'm going to go over here and search this imp. There should be a hand axe. Okay, and now I'm here, I can group up. Okay, now these two, you can see the arrows. That means they're above me. So there's nothing to worry about right now. So holding Alt, you can see there's another Intellect Devourer over here. When you get close to surface areas that you don't want anybody to walk in, it's best to ungroup your party, because your characters are going to try and remain in formation. And when there's 4 of you, it's a diamond formation. 1 here, here, and 1 at the back. And they can unintentionally step on surfaces just trying to stay in formation with you. So it's best to, if you're around tricky areas of movement, that you don't have your party grouped up when you do it. Now, a potion of speed is a very, very useful item. It gives you so many things. It gives you a +2 bonus to your armor class. It gives you advantage on dexterity saving throws. It doubles your movement. It gives you an extra action, which is incredibly beneficial. And then at the end of it, you become lethargic, which means that you can't move, you can't take actions, bonus actions, or reactions when you're done. So when it wears off, you have a serious detriment in that you're not able to do anything until you either get rid of lethargy or somebody casts Lesser Restoration on you, which will cure lethargy, but it's an extraordinarily useful item to have. Okay, now we can search the Mind Flayer. Another potion of speed. Okay, and now we can look over here in this area. Holding Alt, there's nothing out here. Moving your mouse around. Again, nothing out here. You can jump out here, but there's nothing to find when you jump out here. So keep it in mind that you can jump out here. Maybe in the full version there might be something out there, but for right now there isn't. Okay, so I'm going to come around the backside here, and I'm going to get my hit point back, because you see I'm missing a hit point here, so I can use this restoration and get that hit point back. So I'm going to go up the stairs on the right hand side over here. Doesn't matter which side you really go, you use on this portion of it. I'm going to search the dead thrall. Got a bronze necklace. I'm just going to take it and move up here to the top. Okay, so there's a big fight going on. We're going to talk to the enthralled cultist here.
Boo got me. Got me. Got me. Right in the gut. Tell the babes I'll be alright. The Mind Flayers have already enthralled her. Leave her, or we will share her fate.
Okay, you notice the amulet that she was wearing. That's going to become a symbol as you go through the playthrough here. Okay, so we're holding Alt periodically. I'm going to get up here to this top area. We're going to break our group again because we have an imp we can search here. Nothing, and we have a dead thrall. Or we can pick up a dagger and a shield. Okay, now what we're going to do, there's also another dead thrall out here. So we're going to move into this empty area here. And with my high strength, I can jump to a bunch of different locations to be able to reach this area that's not on a fire surface. I'm just going to jump to here. And now I can search the Thrall. We get Potion of Poison Resistance, and we get our Mind. This is the third Mind that I mentioned. Doesn't serve any purpose now, but maybe it will at some point in the future. And we also picked up some camp supplies. We'll explain more about what these are in the future, but for now, not worrying about it. And then jump back. Come back here, group my party back up. We can move over here to this side. We've got some things we can search. Okay, there's a short bow. If I look at it, my light crossbow does 1d8 plus 2. This is 1d6 plus 2. So crossbows outdo damage for bows. Straight up 1 for 1. The light crossbow versus the short bow, and the heavy crossbow versus the longbow. The crossbows outdo them with damage. There can be some bows that you can pick up which will add extra modifiers. Same thing with crossbows that can add extra modifiers that may make them more or less useful. But the crossbows are going to out DPS, are going to out damage.
Oh, lend a hand, won't you, love? There's a rat in the kitchen. 10 red rats. And they're flying and they're clawing.
As I was saying, crossbows are going to out damage bows throughout the first portion of this game, anyway. Now you can see wearing another amulet. He was also a cook. He was wearing cook's clothing. These are all the civilians that were being beamed up, so to speak, by the Nautiloid in the cutscene at the start. So I'm going to move around to this side, and I'm going to go up these stairs over here. And the reason for that is because of those enemies that we saw over on this other side. I'm going to move up here onto this side. I'm going to avoid the fire surface. And move all the way up here. And I'm going to group hide. And now you can see the detection cones again. And you can see the detection cone that this imp has. So there's no way for me to get into melee range here. It's not going to work. But I do have a ranged weapon that I can use. And I'm going to just kind of move around this side. And I still, yeah, can't hit him, but I can hit him. So this is kind of what I'm trying to do, is get myself in a position. Okay. Whew, close. He almost saw me there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this shot with a 99% chance to hit.
What do I have to lose?
And it was a kill outright. Stealth was successful. Whoops. I'm going to go back into hiding. And now, while it's investigating, I can take another 90% chance to hit shot. Killed them both. Didn't even enter into combat there, just because of the way we had placed our characters. We had moved him around the side here, so that when this one, no matter which way it turned or where it moved, it couldn't see me, because this building, this side of the building, was in the way. Okay, and it's stuff like that that you can think about when you're positioning your characters. And now to get them both to move, I have to bring her out of hide. Pre-planning combat is a big part of the game here. Think about the combat, gather as much information about it as you possibly can before you go into it.
I'm a bit peaked, Mum. I think I'll go to bed early.
Okay, and now the holding alt, there's nothing else back there. The only way to go is around here. You can see it's kind of showing you where to go. Okay, got an autosave. And we head into this room here.
Istik, back! Touch nothing without knowing its purpose.
Probably a good thing to do. You know, don't touch anything unless you know what it does. We've got some sigils here that we can interact with. Okay. It made an Arcana check, and I failed it on the first one.
Can't read the script.
Failed it on the second one. Failed it on the third one. So my dwarf doesn't know anything about what this does.
Cannot make this out. Aggression.
Okay. So this one means aggression.
Another sigil.
Okay. Can't make anything else about it. Now you notice that we have some sacrificed cultists here. Alright, got to clear my throat there. And you can see that they're kind of hooked up to this machine here in the middle. And it's drawing something out of them to feed this thing in the middle. Okay? And this says aggression, so maybe if we hit this button underneath it, maybe it will turn them hostile or turn the ship hostile, or we don't know what.
Wonder if the gods are watching me.
Okay, but there is somebody in here.
We have no time for stragglers.
Okay, so now because I'm a barbarian, I have an option here to be able to strength rip this thing open. Okay, but I also have options to look for a latch or just leave them here. Or I could go look around and see if there's some other way to get it open. Okay.
The construction is too alien. Nothing looks familiar.
This ship is crashing. Do you intend to die for a stranger?
Okay, so now I have a strength check, okay, that I can make to try and rip it open. Okay, instead of just opening it up, now I have to pass a strength check to open it. Or I could just go look around and see if there's some other way to get it open. Okay, I can do either one of these. There is a way to get this open though, so I'm going to show you what it is, rather than just passing a strength check.
Try that contraption next to the pod. They did something to it when they sealed me in. Hurry! Please!
Okay, so they said try looking at this.
The console appears dormant. The mechanisms are completely unrecognizable at first. Then you spy an empty socket.
Okay, so I could just hit it.
Nothing. The console remains dormant.
Typical barbarian. Just hit it. Didn't work. Okay, but there was a socket, it said. So there's got to be something to go into that socket. So we're going to go look around and see what it is. Now also in this room, you can see that we have some stuff here on the table. So I'm going to pick up this necklace. Scroll of inflict wounds, scroll of false life. Notice there's also an elaborate reliquary, but as soon as we move over it, it's got a key lock. That means it's locked. So we don't have any lock picks to be able to pick it, and we wouldn't have the skills necessary to really do that anyway. So we'll have to look around and see if we can find a key. Okay, there is an intellect devourer in here, but you can see from my map it's not hostile.
How many hosts of these gay infected?
A dazed woman is trapped inside the pod. She doesn't notice you.
Okay, so there is a civilian trapped inside. Again, you can go sit in the chairs if you want. It doesn't do anything in particular. We have another sigil up here.
Here we go. Could mean anything.
Okay, he failed it.
Nothing. A mystery
Lae'zel failed it.
to me.
You have something to search up here.
Here, I hope.
There's our elaborate key. Anything that has an orange outline is a quest item or a restricted party item. So that lets you know that it's got a use somewhere here in the playthrough. You need to go find it. And a mug, which we don't need.
Moving ahead.
Now, we're going to leave this for now. Once we get back out here, I'll show you why. Okay, so we're going to go back to this chest that was locked. And we're now going to open it. Okay, so we got some gold, we got an onyx, and we got an eldritch rune.
This might unlock those controls next to the pod.
Okay. Now we'll go over here.
The console appears dormant.
We're going to insert the rune.
The console hums to life.
Okay, and now I can take an Arcana check. The DC 10, I don't have any bonuses. Okay, so I passed.
The pulsing glow and organic lines of the device make it seem more like a beating heart than a machine. Perhaps it will open the nearby pod. Suddenly, you feel a hideous squirming in your head. A parasite. Then discomfort fades, and another sensation washes over you. Connection. Authority.
Yeah, you can see that there is an outline of the pod. This is basically telling you this is controlling the pod. Okay, so now we have a couple of different options here. We could ignore the sensation, or we could go through here, and it opens up an option for Illithid. Okay, so it basically says over there that being implanted with a tadpole is a fate worse than death. Isn't it? Question mark. This is just letting you know that this tadpole in our head is giving us some strange abilities that we're not entirely sure about. Okay, so we're going to will the pod to open. Anything that's got Illithid is going to immediately lower the difficulty class to 0. So you cannot fail it, even with a natural 1. So it's basically a guaranteed success every time.
You feel the biomechanical brain of the console process your command, and yield to it. A shiver runs across your mind. You feel sated.
Okay, so it feels sated. So the tadpole wants to be used. Whether you want to use it or not is an entirely different story. So now we can talk to Shadowheart here.
I need a quick word.
I thought that damn thing was going to be my coffin. Thank you.
Your mind lurches into her thoughts. Her gratitude is mixed with wariness, because you have a Gith with you.
You keep dangerous company. Fair point. Looks like there's plenty of fighting ahead. Let me come with you. We can get off this ship and watch each other's backs along the way. Shadowheart. One moment.
So you can ask about this. I know what it is and how influential a part in the story it plays, so I'm not going to deal with it. I'm going to let it go for now.
Finally. Let us make for the helm. We've wasted enough time already.
She's right. Lead on.
Okay. Now, Shadowheart has a higher
This way.
chance to pass Arcana checks, so now we're going to check and see if she knows anything about these.
Well, this isn't enlightening.
Failed that one,
Means nothing to
and
me.
failed that one. Okay. We are going to break our party up now, and we're going to take our dwarf over here,
Never mind.
and we're going to put Lae'zel here. And we're going to trigger this aggression item here. These other two They do different things, but the aggression one releases them and makes them hostile. Okay. One of the others is release, but release, you have to think of it from a Mind Flayer perspective. Mind Flayer is the ones who designed this ship. Release just kills them outright. Okay. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's actually this one. So if you want to fight, you can click aggression. If you want them just to die and you can avoid the fight, then you can click one of the other two. Like I say, I think it's this one. But I'm going to take it's an easy fight to make or to do, and there is a restoration pod right here, so I'm going to trigger this fight just because I can. Okay, so I rolled initiative, and my Barbarian is the first one to act. So I'm not going to, these are 6 hit points and 8 hit points. I'm not going to need to rage on this, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to go ahead and make an attack here. That's what I mean. You don't really need to rage on this. So I can go over here, and now you can move around to this side and try and make a shove attack. See, this shove is going to shove him way over there. If you move around to this side, though, that shove attack is going to shove him out there. Okay, where he's going to die when he goes into the void. So there's an 80% chance to do it. Okay, nope. Didn't pass. So, and actually that 0 or that red marker may have been because he wasn't going to land in the void. He was going to land up here. So maybe I would have had to have been like here to knock him into this area instead. But tried to kill them both with one turn, wasn't able to. He missed, not a big deal anyway. So now we get to some spell casting. So spell castings, you have spell slots and you have cantrips. Cantrips can be cast over and over and over again. They don't use a spell slot. So anything that's got cantrip labeled up there at the top here means that you can cast it over and over and over again. Okay. So other ones, you can see what's going to flash. It's going to take an action and a level 1 spell slot for me to cast Guiding Bolt. So I'm just going to go ahead and cast a Sacred Flame cantrip here. And he made his saving throw.
I will ascend.
So now Lae'zel can move. Oh, great. That was called an attack of opportunity. I didn't think I was within range there. But I wasn't paying attention either. An attack of opportunity is when you are within melee range of somebody and you try and move away from them. They're going to take that opportunity to stab you in the back. Now, when you normally are close enough to somebody, there will be a red arrow that will indicate that you're going to be attacked if you try and move away. It was either I didn't notice it or it was hidden behind this pedestal here, so I didn't really see it was there. So I took an attack of opportunity, he hit, caused 1 hit point of damage. So you need to be aware of attacks of opportunity and not subject yourself to them. Okay, so there's my kill. And now we can search these two. So gold and some camp supplies. Gold and some camp supplies.
Should mind my step.
So now I'm going to go back into this room over here and see if
My faith protects
Shadowheart
me. I must keep going.
can decipher this sigil or not. And I apologize, I'm going to be clearing my throat and that sort of stuff. When I cough, I mute the mic. I had COVID a while ago and I still have symptoms that are lingering and kind of pop up and go away. So if you hear it, I apologize. So I'm going to use Shadowheart here and try and see if she can read the sigil.
Don't know what that
And she
says.
did.
Don't even know if
Okay,
it's right.
so what happens when you press this is it turns the woman into a Mind Flayer.
Cainchar, changed at the pull of a lever. How? If we are not purified, this may be our fate.
Okay, so you kind of learned a little bit. And now you can see there's a mind flayer in here.
The newborn mind flayer stares at you, weak and dazed.
Okay, so we definitely want to leave. It can't get out of there. So it's not going to attack you or anything like that. But yeah, just more lore of the story behind this. So we're going to go and get our 1 hit point back on Lae'zel. And now we're going to go into this last room and we're going to get an autosave here.
We are nearing the helm. Once inside, do as I say.
Who put you in charge? I'll trust my own judgment.
Cainyank.
Okay, so there's no love lost between those two.
Brains.
Okay. Nothing that I needed. No spell slots are expended, so I'm as ready as I'll ever be to go into here. We're just going to move up to here. We're going to get an autosave. And now this fight is fairly straightforward with one exception. The best weapon in early access is available to you inside this room. One of the denizens of hell here, one of the demons, a Cambion, is wielding it, and it's going to be in a fight with the Mind Flayer. If you can manage to help the Mind Flayer kill him, then you can loot the sword off of his body and leave with it. That is more difficult, it's easier said than done, because the Cambion has a lot more hit points than the Mind Flayer does, and a lot more hit points than you do. And if you get in a direct fight with him, meaning he kills the Mind Flayer, he's going to come after you and he's going to wipe you out. So you need to keep the Mind Flayer alive, while at the same time trying to do as much damage to him as you can, but there are other enemies in the room as well that are going to be focused on you. The Cambion will not be focused on you until the Mind Flayer is dead. So it's kind of a delicate balance here. And then after a certain point, there are going to be reinforcements that arrive coming from this way, from behind us. And again, they will just wipe you out. So it's meant to have you just run through here, kill the enemies that are focused on you, let those two fight it out, and you go take the controls and end the prologue. But if you can manage to kill him, like I say, you're going to get the best weapon, the best two-handed weapon in early access, which would be very useful for the Barbarian. Having the Intellect Devourer with me would have been very, very useful. Unfortunately, I failed to check on it. The other thing that is part of this fight is that a lot of it is RNG, random number based. If the Mind Flayer stuns the Cambion, you can do a lot of damage to it, and it can't do any damage to you for 2 turns. So you hope that it gets a stun off sometime during the fight. If it doesn't, it's probably going to end up dying. Okay, so all you can do is, you've got a save here that just happened. You can replay this fight until you manage to kill him. There's just a lot of RNG basis in it. Okay, so we're just going to move in here, and we're going to move up as far as we can here.
Connect the nerves of the transponder. We must escape now.
Do it. We will deal with the Geich after we escape.
Okay, and now you're going to immediately get thrown into combat, and you see what happened. This, Commander Zhalk has 135 hit points, the Mind Flayer has 91, and he just took a big hit, so now he's only got 76. This is who you need to kill, because you can see he's holding a flaming two-handed sword here called the Everburn Blade. So that's who you need to kill. It's just, can you do it or not? Okay, now we have, looks like 2 Imps and a Hellsboar that we need to deal with here. We rolled pretty well on our initiative. Commander Zhalk's down here at the end, and our Mind Flayer is here, so hopefully our Mind Flayer is going to be able to get off a stun or something to keep him from attacking, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so for now, this Imp in the back is going to be the next one to go. It's got a crossbow. I'm not going to be able to attack it from here, so what I really need to do, though, is just get into a position where I can do damage on something. Okay? And I would prefer to get into a spot where I can deal some or take some damage from the Hellsboar here, but we'll see what we can do. I still want to be able to deal some damage, so I don't want to dash on my turn. I still want to be able to deal some damage, so we're going to move up here. Okay, and now if we look at our options here, we have Piercing Shot, which does 3 to 10, the 70% chance to hit, the 90% chance to hit down here, so maybe we can take this one out. Doesn't really matter though, but let's see if we can. Okay, so we did manage to kill it. That's good. I have bonus actions left. So if I could move somewhere, I could shove somebody or try and hide, or something like that. I can also dip my weapon in the fire surface. Whoops. I want to see if I can dip my great axe instead of my... Okay, yeah, here it is. You can click on your great axe and then dip the great axe in here. Okay. So now I can end my turn. Cleric's up. I'm going to dash with my cleric. That doubles her movement speed. You can see she can move all the way up here. I'm not interested in getting her into an attacking position. What I'm interested to do is see if I can reach him with Shield of Faith, and I can. So Shield of Faith is a concentration spell. So maybe I hold off on that for now. Okay. And the Mind Flayer missed. That's not good. And it took another huge hit. So see, almost half of its hit points are already gone. So this probably isn't going to work.
No time to waste.
Okay. Alright, that's a kill. Yeah, nothing else is going to be capable of being done.
We need to get
Okay.
out of here now.
Now here I am going to move up. And I'm going to use the rest of my movement to move toward the Mind Flare combat up here.
Dark Lady, help me strike true.
Now I'm going to cast Field of Faith. Okay, that's a concentration spell. It ups his armor class by 2. Now I can dash. And I can get myself into a spot. Here next to the Mind Flare. It's got a 30% chance to do melee hits from now on. But I'm not going to be really meleeing very much here. Please do a stun. Okay, great. He got a stun. Perfect. That's exactly what you need. Okay. And now, Lae'zel, I'm immediately going to dash. Okay. And now I'm going to just jump my way as far as we can, and now see if I can get into a position over here.
On the move.
Okay. I'm gonna move here. So yes, now I can attack on my next turn with her.
If this ship hits the ground, we're dead.
Okay. And now here. So I'm going to jump my way up here. Get myself in a position to be able to attack next turn. And now you can see the red arrow. That means if I try and move away from it, I'm going to take an attack of opportunity. Okay. So now I still have my action here. So I'm going to try and lacerate. This is going to give me bleed damage if it hits. So bleed is a concurring damage that happens over time. I've got a 64% chance to hit. And I miss. That's just absolutely perfect. Okay. So now with Lae'zel, I'm going to cast some healing here with my last spell on the Mind Flare.
Take your
6 hit points. That was pretty good. And now I have a melee attack for 51%, or I have a Sacred Flame cantrip that's going to hit for 100%. Did 8 hit points. Perfect.
Leave him to me. Connect the transponder.
Okay, so he was stunned. He couldn't do anything on that attack. So I'm going to try and lacerate here. Okay, so now he's bleeding. I'm also going to try a pommel strike. Critical hit. Just do as much damage as you possibly can. And now here, I'm going to rage. Okay. So tells you to keep raging. You have to attack an enemy or take damage each turn. I'm going to be attacking him every single turn. Okay, so now I'm going to prepare again. And I'm going to make an attack here. And I just can't hit to save my life. It just floors me. I've got the biggest damage dealing thing on the planet here, and I can't make a hit.
Talk to me.
Okay, so again, there's nothing else that can be done as far as she goes. She could try and do a concussive smash. The chances, I guess it's a 50% chance to hit. But all it's going to do is daze the target, and he's already dazed. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my Sacred Flame. Well, it's only 40% chance to hit. Her normal melee is 50. So I'll just go ahead and do that instead. Okay. Okay, so now He's got 70, our Mind Flare is 51, so we still need to up the damage here on him. Okay, so we need to get really lucky with some hits here, because we need to do some serious damage on him. Alright, 6 is not bad. Okay, I'm still raging. So I'm going to go ahead and make my attack again. Alright. I do, however, have some items here, and I'm going to use a potion of speed. So now I get another action, and I'm going to try and attack again. Okay, good. That's exactly what we need to see.
Darkness, protect
Keep
me.
hitting him. Do as much as we possibly can. Oh, I made the saving throw, but he missed. Good. Okay, we're going to get reinforcements that are going to show up here pretty quick. We're taking a long time to kill him. So we need to keep going here. Okay, still raging. I've got 2 attacks here. That's 1. And that one missed.
Ready.
Okay, let's see if we can get some radiant damage here. He made his saving throw. 22 and he's stunned. Perfect. Now my 2 hit chance is going to go way up. See, it went up to 64. That's exactly what we needed to see. That was huge, because now our reinforcements are going to show up, I think. Oh, must be next turn. Alright, so now let's just go ahead and wail on him till he dies. Okay, there are reinforcements.
I'm ready.
Alright, perfect. Killed him. Got me enough XP to level up. I don't need the level up. Okay. What I can do, though, is start moving everybody down this way, because now I'm going to have some issues.
It's clear. Hurry before they strike.
Okay, the Mind Flayer, these are reinforcements that popped in. 2 more Imps and a Hellsboar. The Mind Flayer now, however, is going to focus on the 2 Cambions that just popped in. We don't have to worry about them. The Mind Flayer is going to go back there and deal with them for us. Oh, he didn't. Okay, so now things are going to get really interesting.
Guide me.
I've never seen the Mind Flayer do that before. Because the Cambions are going to come dashing up behind us.
Stop the intruders! They must not escape!
So my rage is ended. I'm the only one that can loot Commander Zhalk, so I need to loot. I need to dash. And I need to get away from here. Okay. Cambion might be able to dash, might be able to reach me. Okay, so it can't. So... okay, so that one's dead. So let's see where the Mind Flayer goes now. Okay, so he went after the Cambion. Alright. And now I can move up here and
This is your
probably
end.
kill this imp. Okay, so he's not close enough. I won't get an attack of opportunity here, but now I need to dash and I need to get out of here. Okay, and I can reach the transponder from here. Because they will just keep fighting. They're going to go after the Mind Flayer until the Mind Flayer's dead. I've never... I mean, that's interesting, but whether I could fight them or not. But I don't think I can win that fight. With both of them, I don't think I can. It's interesting if they're both going to go after the Mind Flayer, but I'm not sure they are. See, he's kind of laser focused on me here, so I think I don't want to take the chance. I just want to end this and get out of here. So I think that's what we're going to do. I could, if I wasn't in a live stream playthrough where I'm not reloading, I might try and actually fight this and see if I could win it. It's a very interesting combat here because the stun ability works in an arc in front of it. So he might actually be able to stun both of them if they're both in front of him, both Cambions if they're in front of him. It's just, I don't want to take the chance here since I'm not playing a reload if I fail thing. I just want to get out of here.
Let's see what this does.
Forward, Istik.
The helm's echoing transponder. You made it in time.
Peace. catch a break. Fresh water. There must be a settlement nearby. Something's on my mind.
You're alive. I'm alive. How is this possible? I remember the ship. I remember falling. Then nothing. First things first. We need supplies, shelter, and most in our heads. We need each other, and we both know what's at stake. I can't think of better company. One thing, just before we go. I wanted to thank you again for freeing me. It would have been all too easy for you to run right past my pod, but you didn't. I'll remember that. Lead the way.
No time to rest.
What's next, I wonder?
No one's stopped me yet.
There is work to do.
What now? Swift as my feet can carry me. Anything of use? I'll take that.
Put up a fight by the looks of it. Not that it mattered in the end.
Ugh. Wouldn't wish that fate on anyone.
open up.
Maybe there's another entrance.
More of those wretched things. Out of sight, out of mind. Breathe deep and move.
can't afford any mistakes.
Does this count as adventuring?